This is the Nextool W4. We opened this on a recent live stream and are going to do a quick show and tell of it today now that I'm a bit more familiar with the tool. Comes in a nice tall sheet. It is a bit of a beefy tool, but I think it works for this style. And right off the bat, you can see that this is going to feature an adjustable wrench, sort of a crescent wrench style wrench at the front end. That's intriguing to me because I do work in the film industry where a crescent wrench is an absolutely critical tool for day-to-day lighting. Inside, you're going to have a pair of pliers, spring-loaded. Pretty decent quality on this tool. Nothing crazy, but certainly something that I would trust for reasonable work expectations. Internal or the additional tools you're going to have. Nice sheep's foot knife blade. One issue I have with that knife blade is that the liner lock is not well enough exposed to get an easy grip. It's definitely a thoughtful process to get that closed. Inside, you're also going to have, or I guess externally accessible, you're also going to have a saw blade, which locks with a little liner lock, and a file, which is decently long and does have a diamond side on it, as well as the edge file. Let's compare that to a Leatherman Wave file, if I've got one handy. And that is going to be, so you can see the difference in length. It's appreciable, but not excessive. So this is going to be a pretty useful tool, and that file is just held in with a spring detent. Additionally, let's see, there should be another tool in here. If I'm not mistaken, there is a bit holder inside of this little carriage here, retained magnetically, and that bit will fit right into the end of this handle. So if I can't close the tool with the bit in, but you can use it as a bit driver. So kind of handy. Overall, I think that this is a very intriguing tool for certain professions. If you're a crescent wrench user, typically on set, I'm going to have a multi-tool like Leatherman Wave or Leatherman Arc, and then I'm going to have a crescent wrench as well. That's in the film lighting industry. But if you are in, I'm sure there are other industries where a crescent wrench is kind of non-negotiable. It is a heavy tool, you know, much heavier than let's pull out maybe a Leatherman Surge. It's a little lighter than a Surge, it feels like. Maybe it's similar in weight, so it's a beefy tool. That's just, you know, I haven't calibrated my feel for weight, but it is definitely a beefy tool. It's also a little bit awkward to use the pliers because you have this massive weight at the end of one handle. That is kind of a necessary drawback, but to fit all of those things in one package, I think Nextool did a pretty darn good job. The other key feature of this adjustable wrench is you can see this locking slot here. If I remove that, pull that down into the lower position, it says unlocked, this whole head will pivot. And when it pivots up, the, how does it work? Yeah, when it pivots up, this jaw becomes movable. And when it drops back down, that pin prevents it from moving. What that allows you to do is have basically a ratcheting action where it'll, if I'm rotating clockwise, it's locking. If I rotate, let me fix my finger so I don't break it. If I rotate counterclockwise, it releases that jaw and will allow you to rotate around. Kind of gives you that ratcheting action that you might be familiar with from a something like a Knipex pliers wrench. But it does so on a proper crescent wrench, and it's lockable, so it will work in a similar way. It does feel well made. The jaw moves very smoothly. They've also taken some lengths to minimize the stick out of this pin. That's important because if you want to put this back in the pouch, you probably don't want that pin sticking out. Also less prone to breaking. But from about is that centimeters, from about 1.5 centimeters to all the way down to 5 millimeters, you're not going to have much pin exposed. So you can kind of leave it in that center range without worrying too much about it. But you can also go all the way up to 2.5 centimeters. Let's get that in inches. I do wish they had an inch scale here. It would be helpful for us US peeps. Goes all the way up to just over 1 inch. So it will be adequate for most sort of quick tasks that you have with a crescent wrench, and gives you a decent amount of leverage. Let's check the length on this as well, because I think it's going to be similar to a 6-inch. Yeah, just about 6 inches. Not a perfect measurement, but it's about a 6-inch crescent wrench equivalent. So those are the features of this new Nextool W4. We'll have affiliate links down below to support the channel if you are looking for one. What I like about this is that it's a bit unique. There are other models with the adjustable wrench on top, but this is definitely one of the more well-refined versions of a adjustable wrench multi-tool. I like that it has kind of everything I would need on as a lighting technician, but not it's not completely overkill in a lot of ways. I think I would miss certain things from my Leatherman Arc, but I could definitely see carrying this in and using just this tool. I don't love the ergonomics for the pliers. I think that that is a bit of puts you in a bit of a pickle to try and use those pliers with that weight pulling away on the other end. And I mentioned before, the liner lock here on the plain edge blade is a little bit hidden. You can see there's just that little bit, and you got to get your thumb. I've got, bigger hands than most perhaps, but just doesn't seem great. Totally fine to open, a little bit of a pain to close. Anything that is a deal breaker on here? I don't think so. One thing that was a bit unfortunate is I don't feel that the bit retention here for standard 1/4-inch bits is ideal. If I take this Vera bit, which are machined to very precise tolerances, in certain orientations, it jams up before it reaches the magnetic retention. I did just find another spot where it did drop in all the way, but I can even see, I don't know if you can see on camera, that it's starting to rub on that bit in some strange ways. There's a scuff mark just from a couple of tries. It does work very well with the internally retained bit, and I think the reason for that is it's got a little bit deeper recess than you would want necessarily for a standard 1/4-inch bit. While we're at it, because I haven't tried this yet, let's try a standard 1/4-inch bit in this bit retention plate. Yeah, that fits in just fine. So you could swap out the bit that you're carrying if there's something you use a lot. For me, I like to have my Phillips, my standard Phillips bit, and then I carry a 3/16" hex bit, as well as usually a flathead screwdriver built into the tool. That's something I would carry on like the Leatherman Arc. Unfortunately, this does not have a flathead driver, which would make the tool a little bit more useful. I suppose you might be able to use that file, but I don't think it would be ideal, and it's non-locking. But that is a quick look at the Nextool W4. There's a W2, which is a little bit smaller. I think this is a really intriguing tool. And again, I like seeing these sort of purpose-built tools, these unique takes on multi-tools that aren't just the same tool set over and over again. I think that's something that Nextool and Roxxon have both done really, really brilliantly of late. And so I'm appreciative of seeing those sorts of things. But I don't know if this will replace my my Leatherman Arc on film sets, but I will probably be giving this a try. Check it out if you are interested in the link below.